What is the worst thing you've ever woken up to in the middle of the night? My wife had a miscarriage in the middle of the night a few years ago. Still haunts me.
Woke up inside the back of an ambulance. I had my first grand mal seizure and I apparently made some pretty terrifying sounds and rightfully scared the beep out of my girlfriend. I just remember one of the paramedics telling me I had a seizure, and when she asked me what day it was and my name and I couldn't remember, I started crying.
A black bear sniffing my head through a thin tent wall.
My bed was on fire. My brother used a lighter to find stuff he hid under my bed while I was sleeping in it.
Sleeping over at my boyfriend's place, I'm awake for some reason about 3 a.m. I hear noises in the living room that I assume are the cats. But it doesn't sound quite right. I hear boyfriend's roommate get up to investigate. A moment later he appears in the doorway saying, "There's somebody in the house." It was a homeless guy, probably mentally ill. He just walked in the, stupidly unlocked, front door. Just standing in the living room. Boyfriend jumps up and confronts him. Guy claims he was just cold and that he knocked first. He definitely did not knock, but anyway he seemed harmless, so we gave him a blanket and he left. That door was locked from that point forward. And I still wonder what was really going on there. He was trying to be quiet, and I've never seen a homeless person in that neighborhood, and why our house? I'm just glad nothing happened.
Had a friend visit me in college. We went on one of those crazy night out benders and got back to my house around 3:30 to 4 a.m. Woke up a couple of hours later to my cell phone ringing. My dad was excitedly asking me if we were all right from the storms that had passed through. He lived 170 miles to the west. Confused, I rolled over and looked out my living room window. There was devastation everywhere. A string of tornadoes had ripped through the island I lived on and trees were down, power lines ripped up, roofs torn off of houses, pretty much the works. It nudged my friend and just said, "Dude, we just slept through a tornado."
Cops kicking in my door with guns drawn and yelling that I was under arrest. They actually meant to bust my next door neighbor but got the address wrong.
Up to now, I've only shared this story with my girlfriend of 10 years. My first experience with sleep paralysis was one of the most traumatizing and jarring experiences of my life. It happened over 10 years ago, when I was in high school. I woke up to find that I couldn't move my body. I was laying on my back, with my head on my pillow looking towards the bedroom door. At first, it was like any other night for about a minute or two while I laid in bed. I didn't realize I couldn't move. When I discovered this fact, I instantly started panicking. This is when one of the most beep-up things I've ever experienced happened. I saw my mom come into the room. Everything was normal about her, except she had glowing red eyes, something straight out of the movies. She walked up to me slowly, until she was standing straight beside me. This is where the story gets really beep-up. I'm getting anxious as I type this out. I saw this figure, my mom with glowing red eyes, give me a blowjob. As she started doing this, I had the heaviest weight on my chest, and I couldn't understand what the beep was happening. I had never heard of sleep paralysis before, but even if I had, I'm not sure I would have been able to control my emotions. It was one of the worst feelings in the world, maybe the worst thing I've experienced psychologically. Thinking back, I can't recall how I snapped out of it. I just remember crying throughout the day, and having trouble sleeping for a couple months after. Luckily, I never experienced anything like that ever again.
I was in Puerto Rico at the time with a group of others. Our sleeping accommodations were on the floor. I woke up to someone saying, "It bit me, it bit me." In my slumber my first thought was ants. I wish it was ants. This person had a centipede crawl across their face while they were sleeping and grabbed it with their hand. The centipede proceeded to wrap around their hand, biting it, and drawing blood. They described the centipede as barbed wire walking across their face. This thing was pushing close to a foot in length and managed to escape before we could do anything about it. They had to be seen by a doctor for the bite, and none of us slept on the floor again after that. We just put benches together to at least have a little feeling of safety. I hate centipedes.
An enormous water tower atop the hill in the area where I grew up collapsed, unleashing torrents of water and flooding homes in the neighborhood below. Rushing water came out of nowhere, like the sound of a freight train racing through people's yards.
My 2-year-old daughter was sleeping with me and I woke up slightly and thought I smelled something off. Not like poop, but what my half-awake mind interpreted as maybe a strong sweaty smell or oh. I just figured I needed to wash the sheets. However, once I completely woke and went into the bathroom to shower, I noticed some chunks that fell out my hair. Looking closer and going back into my bedroom, I realized that my daughter vomited during the night and we both had slept in the warm pool of it, snuggled up cozily against each other. Really a heartwarming moment. Or something.
Not me, but my dad. He was asleep on the floor and my toddler sister asleep on the couch. She started peeing and it ran off the couch and all over his face.
My kid puking right in my face. Like, little dude, you weren't feeling well, so you got out of bed, walked right past the bathroom, and decided to let me know you were sick by puking on my face.
My mom's boyfriend kicking my door down at like 3 a.m. all methed out. I had work at 6.
Feeling of being watched but there's no one there. Feeling something crawling on your leg and when you turned on the light, it's a long fat centipede. That woke me right up.
Mum passed out due to low blood pressure and face planted the corner of her bedside table before hitting the floor.
I was asleep on my girlfriend's sofa at her parents' house and woke up with a start because I could feel someone breathing on my face. It was her parents' cat.
A hotel alarm in Boston on a work layover. It wasn't even like a normal fire alarm, it was a robotic woman's voice saying there was an emergency in the building followed by the loudest chirps. Hopped out of my room in a half-asleep combination outfit of a scarf, my pajamas and trainers to discover it was just triggered by a frozen pipe or something.
A wolf spider trying to lay eggs in my mouth.
I was woken up at 1:30 a.m. by the sound of broken glass. I immediately thought someone had broken into my apartment. Never mind that I was on the 5th floor in a bachelor apartment with only one window, that was right beside my bed and intact. Some more broken glass sounds come from the kitchen? Turns out the glass in my microwave door decided 1:30 at night was a good time to explode on its own. I snapped a picture before vacuuming because I was like, nobody is ever going to believe me.
Momentary scare because I woke up, heard a rumble outside so I went to check it out and saw a military parade. For some reason my first thought was, oh my god, the Ruskies have reached London. Then I realized.
The first night we got our Corgi puppy it happened to be very windy. So windy in fact it blew one of the steel panels out of our fence hard enough to hit the side of the house, right outside the bathroom where the puppy was sleeping. I have never heard such a blood-curdling scream come from a puppy before, I nearly had a heart attack. Poor little fella managed to piss himself in fright and was dripping wet. Puppy tax. And all grown up.
My brother's hand reaching through my window to wake me up so I could open the door for him.
I fell asleep in the living room waiting for my, now ex-boyfriend to get home. I heard the front door open and it took my body/brain a second to wake up enough to open my eyes, and when I did I saw a man that was not my boyfriend standing in my front door looking at me. I said with the beep and he said, oh, I think I'm at the wrong house, and then I screamed, well, get the beep out then. Thankfully he did turn around and leave immediately. Maybe he really did just go to the wrong house, or maybe he was walking around checking for unlocked doors and found one. Since that night I keep my doors locked at all times.
A fox screaming. Never heard one before and I sat in bed wondering if I needed to call 911.
I woke up out of a dream to a horrible smell I had been smelling in my dream. Stepped out of bed into a pile of dog diarrhea. Only good thing was the hardwood floors because I can imagine the apartment would have still smelled like that no matter what we did to clean it up.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to subscribe to Upvote for the best quality content every day.